In this video, we're going to be covering the top 12 watches that come in at under 40 millimeters. This one's for you slim wrist gang. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always. And before we start this video, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. And let's not lie, everyone in the industry at the moment is slimming down. They're getting smaller. They're wanting smaller watches on their wrists. And coming from a skinny guy, I tend to go for slightly smaller watches. So let's start with a banger at number 1, or number 12, depending on how you want to, put it. At number 1, we have the Hamilton Khaki Field Expedition, giving an affordable luxury watch, and this comes in at 37 millimeters. Now, the key feature on this model that is just pretty awesome, actually, is the compass on the bezel. It gives a totally different dynamic to the previous version of the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical. And this compass bezel, it does work, but it depends what hemisphere you're on. I'm going to make a new video, hopefully in the next couple of months, kind of explaining that. So if you want to see that, hit that subscribe button. This watch comes in at 11.45 millimeters in thickness. There's a variety of colors that you can choose between. I mean, you've got white, you've got black, you've got blue. I would personally, I have the white dial. So that one is an absolute banger. Now, what I actually did is I switched the bracelet for the NATO strap from the previous Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical, and that green NATO strap plays wonderfully with that white dial. Now, since I've actually done that, they released a new version of the Hamilton Khaki Field Expedition with that green NATO strap. I think I set that trend. In this model, you do have the H10 movement, which is a mass-produced ETA movement from Swatch Group. And remember, Swatch Group own Hamilton, but they also own ETA, which is why you see Tissot's, Certina's kind of having that ETA movement. By the way, they're brilliant movements. And this one has 80 hours of power. As an overall package, if you were to go for the NATO strap, this would come in at £920. And it is probably one of the best everyday wearers for the money. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Hamilton. It's just great. At number 2, we have another affordable Swatch Group brand, which is from Certina. So we have the Certina DS Action Diver coming in at 38 millimeters. Now, there's tons of variations of this model to choose between, so I'll just cover the basic specs, but you can really kind of hone in on what you prefer. And because there's so much variance, you can really kind of get what you prefer. You can get something a little bit different. This watch comes in at 38 millimeters and it comes in at 12.20 millimeters in height. It is still quite slim for a diving watch, which is what this watch kind of is. I mean, it looks similar. I'm not going to mention the brands, but to other diving watches, apart from it's just a lot cheaper. This model goes to 300 meters of water resistance, which is quite damn impressive for a watch coming in at £765. I feel like Certina, I'm not sure what you guys think, but let me know in the comments. I feel like Certina as a brand is really underrated. It kind of gets dwarfed by the Hamiltons and the Tissots, but they do really good product, really incredible watches for an affordable price, but just nobody seems to talk about them. Next up, at number 3, we have one that just meets the criteria. It comes in at 39.5 millimeters. This is the Raymond Weil Millesime, and this watch actually won the GPHG Awards. It's kind of like the Oscars for watches, basically. They give it to watches that deserve recognition, and I think that this watch definitely did deserve recognition. This watch, as I said before, comes in at 39.5 millimeters, but it also comes in at 10.25 millimeters in thickness, which is really damn thin. This watch is more of a dressy watch, and it sits really beautifully under a shirt cuff. The movement on this watch is the RW4251, and this has 41 hours of power. And for the price of this watch, I would expect a little bit more power reserve. It does come in at £1,775. So at that price category, you are eating into the territory of Longines here. But it's a totally different aesthetic. It's a totally different model from a totally different brand. The next watch we're going to dive into at number 4 is one that I haven't talked about in the channel ever, which is actually a first for me. This is the Maurice Lacroix Aikon automatic date 39 millimeters. Now, I've definitely pronounced that first word wrong, but let's just roll with it. The case diameter on this watch comes in at 39 millimeters, and the thickness, and this is impressive, the thickness comes in at 11 millimeters. Now, the design on these watches is extremely futuristic. It's very Maurice Lacroix, and I've kind of gone into a rabbit hole recently of researching this brand, and they're they're pretty awesome. So we're going to get some reviews of those watches sorted. Now, there are a variety of different watches from that range that you can choose, but the one that I've picked specifically is the blue dial with the blue strap, the blue rubber strap. The movement in this watch is the automatic caliber ML115, and this has 38 hours of power, beats at a frequency of 28,800 VPH, and has 26 joules. This watch isn't cheap, and it does come in at around about £2,000. But again, it's one of these watch brands that only people within the watch industry would know if you wore it. And that's quite nice, you know? When you wear a Rolex, everyone kind of knows what Rolex is. But when you wear a Maurice Lacroix, only watch enthusiasts will identify that watch on your wrist, and then you can strike up that conversation. And that's happened to me a couple of times with my watches, and it's a really nice thing. You end up meeting tons of friends. But I'm blabbering, let's move on. On that note, if you like any of these watches that you see before you, remember that Chisholm Hunter are official stockists of most of these brands. I mean, we've got IWC, we've got Tudor, we've got Omega, the list goes on and on and on. So head to chisholmhunter.co.uk, that's chisholmhunter.co.uk for your next watch. And if you do get it from us, from Chisholm Hunter, I'd really appreciate it because that supports the channel. Thank you. The next watch on the list, coming in at number 5, is the Tudor Black Bay GMT 58. Now, this was released this year at Watches and Wonders 2024, and it's an absolutely unbelievable watch for the money. And it gives you a little bit more pop, a little bit more color, a little bit more spice. This watch, of course, is a GMT model, so it is for those that travel that little bit more and want to read multiple time zones at the one time. And that is actually kind of perfect for my line of work because I do a lot of travel. This model comes in at 39 millimeters in diameter and comes in at 12.8 millimeters in thickness. The bezel, of course, comes in two different colors. You have a black and a burgundy side to that bezel, but it is a lot more of a glossed bezel rather than a matte bezel. And that's kind of one of the differences, or the main differences that I saw between that and the original 58. The movement in this model is the manufacturer caliber MT5450-U, and this watch is COSC and METAS certified. That is insane for the price. This watch comes in at £4,000, or actually £3,960 if you want to be specific. But I believe, and I don't think I'm wrong in this, but let me know in the comments if you think I am, I believe this is the only watch that you can get that's COSC and METAS certified for that price. I think this is probably the cheapest end of the spectrum with that certification included, which is kind of a huge feat. Now, I would love this watch to have an open case back, if I'm totally honest, but I can't have everything, and I've got to deal with that. At number 6, we actually have another Tudor model, which is the Tudor Black Bay 58, because I thought we'd just include these two together. If you don't want to be as bold and you don't want to be maybe have as much of a statement on your wrist, then the Tudor Black Bay 58 is the vintage classic that will last a lifetime. The Black Bay 58 comes in at 39 millimeters, and because it is a fully functional diving watch, it goes to water resistances, or is waterproof, to 200 meters. It also comes in at 11.9 millimeters in thickness, which is pretty damn thin, actually. Now, the movement on this model comparatively to the previous version that we're talking about, the GMT, actually isn't METAS certified, but it is COSC certified, which is still pretty awesome. The movement is the manufacturer caliber MT5402, and this is a self-winding mechanical movement with a bidirectional rotor system, and it has about 70 hours of power. Now, this watch as a full package comes in at £3,450, which is actually it's still really good. Tudor are making huge waves in the industry. And even at Watches and Wonders 2024, I was there. People seem to be really obsessed with Tudor. Like, the Rolex stand was obviously heaving, but Tudor was the biggest apart from that. Before we go any further, I suppose it's time for the wrist check. What is on your wrist today? Please let me know in the comments. I love seeing all the weird and wacky, wonderful watches that you guys have on. And on that note, I have the Tissot PRX green dial on. It's been an awesome watch so far, but there has been issues with the bracelet. I suppose it's just because I've been wearing it so much, I've kind of battered it up a little bit. The bracelet sometimes pops off now, but I suppose that's more of a me thing. Next up, we are jumping up our price bracket here. We are jumping up a huge amount of money, but this is one of the GOATs in the industry, and it's such a stunning watch. It is the Zenith Chronomaster Original. Now, the Zenith Chronomaster Original comes in at 38 millimeters, and it has a white matte dial with 3 different colored counters, which again gives a pop of color, gives a point of difference, and just makes it more unique within the industry. Zenith have always prided themselves in their movements and their innovation. And actually, they used to supply the Rolex Daytona's movement, which is a huge feat. That's mental. This watch in particular has the El Primero movement. Now, this beats at a frequency of 36,000 VPH. It has 311 components, and it has approximately 60 hours of power. At number 8, we have a watch that I actually made a video about very recently. It's the Longines Conquest 38mm. An absolute banger from an absolute banging brand. Longines have been killing it recently. Everybody knows that. They've had the Longines Hydro Conquest GMT, the Longines Conquest Chrono, the Longines Conquest 41, and now they've got the Longines Conquest 38mm in a variety of different colors. The Longines Conquest 38mm does come in at £2,000, but you get a lot for your money. And this is a more dressy, elegant watch for the money. This model, of course, comes in at 38mm, as we've discussed, but it also comes in at 10.9mm in thickness. Yes, I said that. With an automatic movement. Wild. The movement in this model is the caliber L888, and this caliber L888 beats at a frequency of 25,200 VPH. It also has a power reserve of around about 72 hours, which again, for that thickness, that's impressive. At number 9, we have an absolute icon within the watch industry. A watch brand that received previously quite a lot of criticism. However, they are now priding themselves on their high-end complicated watches, which people did not see coming. Of course, it is the Tag Heuer Monaco coming in at 39mm. Now, everybody knows the story about Steve McQueen and his Heuer Monaco watch, because Tag Heuer, that's a merger of two companies. It was Tag and it was Heuer, and they came together to make Tag Heuer. But everybody knows about Steve McQueen and his epic Tag Heuer, or Heuer Monaco. And that's partially why this watch is so popular nowadays. It kind of laid the foundations for a lot of what Tag is today. This watch comes in at 39mm, comes in at 14.3mm in thickness, has that iconic kind of cushion cut case that we don't see as often. Again, it's a point of difference. It's making you unique. It's water resistant to 100 meters, and the movement in this watch is fully automatic. It's the caliber 11 movement, and it has around about 40 hours of power. The model I would go for specifically on this one is the blue and red model. It's the linings and the tastings and the flecks of red really pop that blue dial out, and it just is the GOAT of Tag Heuer. I would argue, and I'd love to know your point of view on this, but I would argue that this is probably the pinnacle piece for Tag Heuer, the most historic piece for Tag Heuer. At number 10, and I'm sorry, I have to say I'm sorry, because it is rather boring for YouTubers to mention Rolex, but let's not lie, Rolex is amazing. Everybody loves it, and they love it for a reason, because it's brilliant. At number 10, we have the Rolex Explorer 36mm. This Rolex Explorer 36mm is just an absolute classic within the industry. And it's so damn versatile. It can be worn as a dress watch, an actual explorer's watch, a sports watch. You can kind of wear this anywhere. But, I mean, the caveat to that is it's expensive. It's really expensive. It comes in at £6,300, but that's only, of course, if you can get it new, which you probably can't. So you'd be paying a lot more than that. At number 11, we have kind of an obscure one, but we have the IWC Portofino coming in at 39mm. People tend to overlook the IWC Portofino. They kind of stick to the big pilot, the engineer, and they kind of forget about everything else. But I don't think they should, because the Portofino is one hell of a sexy looking model. And specifically, I've actually gone for the green one here because it looks awesome. The Portofino, of course, comes in at 39mm, and it also has a height of 12.7mm. It does have a closed case back. It is a chrono model, so it might feel that little bit bigger on the wrist because it's a chrono model, because it has those pushers at the right-hand side. The movement in this model is the caliber 79350, and this, of course, is fully automatic with 44 hours of power, 272 components, and 31 joules. The next watch is the final watch. Da, 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 da. That was weird. I shouldn't have done that. The next watch is the IWC Spitfire. This watch comes in at 39 millimeters, has a height of 10.8 millimeters, and also a water resistance of 60 meters. This is kind of like a Hamilton Khaki Field, but upgraded in every single way possible. It's a lot more expensive, but it has the quality of a really, really premium brand behind it. And it's so damn versatile. It is quite similar to the Khaki Field. The movement on this watch is the caliber 32110, and it has 72 hours of power, 163 components, and 21 joules. And that is the top 12 watches under 40 millimeters. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Or follow our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, or my Instagram at HB Life Lens, or our podcast at Into the Mind Podcast, or just the Into the Mind Podcast will do. And that's it. I'll see you soon.